Welcome to today's video. Have you ever wondered how a light tank could make such a significant impact in historical conflicts like World War II or the Indochina War? The M24 Chaffee, one of the most beloved tanks of its time, proved its remarkable mobility and versatility on the battlefield. But is this tank truly flawless, or are there weaknesses that need attention? Let's dive into the details in this video. Before World War II, the US military doctrine identified light tanks as the main force in reconnaissance units, supporting armored vehicles and infantry reconnaissance. They were designed to withstand rifle fire, machine gun fire, enemy armored vehicles, and shrapnel, but were not intended to engage enemy tanks directly, though they still needed to have certain self-defense capabilities. When the US entered the war in 1941, the standard light tank was the M3 Stuart, which was later developed into the M5 and M5A1 models. Although the design of the Stuart was highly regarded at the start of the war, by the later stages, it showed several weaknesses: thin armor, a tall hull, straight sides, and a main gun of only 37mm. The planned successor was the M7, but it was cancelled after the production of 7 prototypes due to its similarity to the M4 Sherman. In April 1943, General Motors launched a project to develop a new light tank, where the chassis could be shared with various combat vehicles. The T-24 prototype was quickly put into mass production and named the M24 Chaffee in 1944, in honor of General Abner Chaffee Jr., who laid the foundations for US tank doctrine in the 1920s. M24 Chaffee is a light tank developed by the United States in 1943 and was used during World War II. Although it was produced for a short time, it became quite widely used. The design of the M24 stemmed from the shortcomings of the M3 and M5 models, which had thin armor and weak firepower, while the M7, although more powerful, was ineffective in combat. In March 1943, the US Department of Defense requested the development of a new light tank that would retain the chassis of the M5A1 but be equipped with a 75mm main gun. Just 1 month later, General Motors unveiled the T-24 design, the precursor to the M24, which streamlined many details to keep the weight under 20 tons. This tank featured thin armor, with the thickest part at the front being only 25mm, angled at 60 degrees, and was equipped with a 75mm main gun, which was a modification of the gun used on the B-25H Mitchell bomber. This new gun was lighter, had a faster rate of fire, but still retained the power equivalent to the gun used on the earlier M3 model. The main gun on the M24 had similar features to the one used on the M3 but was lighter due to the thinner barrel and improved recoil mechanism, which helped increase the rate of fire. The new design also featured a 16-inch wide track and a torsion bar suspension system, improving the vehicle's stability during operation. The M24 had a low profile, with a turret crew consisting of 3 men. The prototype T-24 was quickly approved and mass-produced under the official name M24. Production began on October 15, 1943, at 2 factories, Cadillac, from April 1944, and Massey-Harris, from July 1944. By the time production ceased in August 1945, approximately 4,731 units had been manufactured and transported by air. The M24 Chaffee tank used a dual Cadillac 44 T24 V8 flathead gasoline engine, combined with a General Motors Hydromatic automatic transmission and a torsion bar suspension system. The M24 was equipped with 2 types of tracks, the all-steel T72E1 and the T85E1 with a rubber base. The maximum speed was 56 km/h, which was similar to the M3, M5 Stuart tanks that Chaffee replaced during World War II. The turret armor ranged from 19mm to 25mm, with the main gun shield at 38mm, glacis armor at 25mm, and the hull armor ranging from 19mm to 25mm, with some thinner areas. Although the armor protection was similar to the Stuart, the sloped armor design gave the Chaffee a higher survival rate. A notable feature was the removable octagonal armor plate on the glacis, which allowed access to the differential, the transmission component responsible for steering and reversing the hydromatic gearbox. The main weapon of the M24 Chaffee was the 75mm M6 gun, developed at Rock Island Arsenal. This gun was originally the T-13E1 variant used on the B-25 Mitchell aircraft for anti-ship duties, sharing ammunition and ballistics with the M3 gun on the M4 Sherman tank. However, the M6 had a thinner, lighter barrel and an improved recoil mechanism. On the M24, the M6 was mounted on the M64 mount, integrated with a coaxial machine gun. The M6 used a sliding breech mechanism to assist in operation. Ammunition types included M72, solid shot, M48, high explosive fragmentation, and smoke rounds. With M72 rounds, the muzzle velocity reached 564 meters per second, capable of penetrating 76 millimeters of armor at a distance of 457 meters. The vehicle carried a total of 48 rounds of 75 millimeters ammunition. The machine gun armament included two M1919 7.62 mm machine guns, each with 1,875 rounds of ammunition. On top of the turret, a M2 HP Browning 50 calories machine gun was mounted with 440 rounds of ammunition. Initially mounted at the front of the commander's hatch, it was later relocated to the rear for easier use during infantry support. The M24 also had an M3 smoke mortar in the turret, which was often removed after the war. The rear of the vehicle contained an infantry communication box, camouflage netting, spare track links, a rain tog, and tools for repairing broken tracks. The vehicle design prioritized lightweight and minimal carrying capacity. Initially, the US Army ordered only 1,000 M24 Chaffee tanks, intended for temporary use in Europe. The first units arrived in Europe in November 1944. Due to their unexpected effectiveness, the order increased to 5,000 units, and the M24 was deployed globally. The Chaffee stood out for its reliability, high speed, and the powerful 75mm main gun, which was twice as strong as the M5 Stewart's gun. A small feature that the crew appreciated was the two hatches on the vehicle's hull, which could be opened even if the turret was jammed in any direction. When World War II ended, the entire light combat family was cancelled, and the production line was halted at the 4,731st unit. Some M24 tanks were transferred to the British Army, where they were named Chaffee in honor of Major General Abner R. Chaffee, Jr., who is considered the father of the United States Armored Forces. The M24 Chaffee was developed to replace the M5 light tank, which was primarily used in the role of infantry support. The first batch of 34 minutes and 24 seconds was sent to Europe in November 1944 and assigned to the 2nd Mechanized Cavalry Regiment in France. They were integrated into F Company of the 2nd and 42nd Reconnaissance Cavalry Battalions. During the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, these units were moved south, with two M24s attached to the 740th Tank Battalion of the U.S. 1st Army. After the war ended, the M24 Chaffee tanks initially intended for the final invasion of Japan were instead used as the first tanks of the Japanese occupation forces. Due to its light weight, the Chaffee was suitable for crossing small rural bridges in Japan. A strange post-World War II project in 1946 tested the installation of wheels and tracks from the German SDKFZ-8 onto the M24 Chaffee, but the results showed no significant improvement. In 1947, the T-122 test with a machine gun on the Chaffee turret was conducted but did not receive funding. The M24 Chaffee became one of the most widely used U.S. military aid vehicles during the Cold War after 1945. 29 countries, including 9 of the 11 NATO allies, used the M24. Japan operated the Chaffee from 1954 to 1975, and both Iran and Iraq used them in the 1980s. Uruguay was the last country to use the M24, only retiring it in 2018. The United States exported over 3/4 of the M24 tanks produced during World War II, with France receiving 1,254 units after the war, accounting for more than 25% of the total M24 tanks produced. Basically, the M24 could withstand most types of standard infantry fire. However, its armor was considered weak due to being too thin, making it vulnerable to being taken out by a single bazooka shot or easily penetrated by most types of self-propelled anti-tank guns and anti-tank mines. These tanks served with the French army on the battlefield in Vietnam from 1945 to 1954 as part of American aid. The M24 Chafees were considered by both France and the United States as a breakthrough factor on the battlefield. During the First Indochina War, France used the M24 Chaffee after the M5A1 Stuart proved unsuitable due to its cramped interior and underpowered main gun. The M24 was deployed in 1950 and was better suited to the terrain and operational requirements of the war. It also matched the needs of guerrilla warfare in the region. The M24 Chaffee had the advantage of lightweight, allowing it to cross many types of bridges and exert less ground pressure, making it suitable for rice paddies and marshy terrain. The tank used a wet ammunition storage system with 75mm shells kept in water-filled compartments. The French often drained the water to reduce overall weight. In the Indochina War, since the resistance forces had no tanks, the M24 Chaffee was mainly used as an armored reconnaissance vehicle, convoy escort, or infantry support. Additionally, France often deployed the Chaffee alongside M8 Greyhounds and M3 White Scout cars for battlefield reconnaissance. The M24 Chaffee and these vehicles played important roles in both combat and logistics missions. The history of the M24 Chaffee tank began when the US Army and Cadillac cooperated to develop a replacement for the outdated M3 and M5 Stuart series. The T-24 prototype was introduced in October 1943 and officially entered mass production in 1944 under the name light tank M24. The new vehicle retained the dual Cadillac V8 engines from the M5 but replaced the 37mm main gun with a lighter 75mm cannon, adapted from the version used on the B-25 Mitchell bomber. The M24 featured high speed and excellent mobility. Although it only saw combat during the final stages of World War II, the Chaffee shined on the Korean Peninsula in reconnaissance units, operating alongside the Sherman EZ-8, M26 Pershing, and M46 Patton. After the United States replaced the M24 with the M41 Walker Bulldog, many countries such as Israel and France continued using this tank well into the 1950s. M24 Chaffee was a light tank with significant influence in warfare, especially during World War II and the early years of the Cold War. Although the M24's design had some limitations, such as low durability when facing heavy tanks, its flexibility, speed, and superior mobility made the Chaffee an effective weapon in many situations, from the European battlefields to the war in Indochina. The M24 Chaffee proved its value as an essential military tool, particularly in the role of a light tank and infantry support vehicle. However, like any weapon system, it also had certain weaknesses. If you find this video useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more exciting military weapon analysis videos.